something more visual.
But the visual is one side of it, but the actual approach to playing, like, did you listen to, like, the fusion guys, or did you...
Everything.
Was there a guy, who was your guy as far as bass?
Tim Bogert from the Vanilla Fudge played this amazingly wild-ass bass, and it's wove in between all the songs. And then later on, when I was fortunate enough to hang out with Tim, he said basically it was Jamie Jamerson, who was the Motown player. If you listen to bass on Motown stuff, it's all over the place. It's like lead bass like crazy. Paul McCartney plays a lot of notes, he's moving up and down the neck a lot. So the idea of playing a lot of notes on bass is right or wrong. For me, James Jamerson and Paul McCartney, pretty good examples of successful bass players. So they sure did it, and it worked. So that was a lot of it there. And then just again, it's 2:30 in the morning, and you're in a club, and there's not many people left, and you got a chance now to experiment too. You can go off these long jams and work back and forth, guitar, bass, drums, and do all kinds of stuff. And I never had any musical prejudice at all. I listened to almost everything. I listened to all kinds of jazz and classical music, hardcore classical music. Paul Gilbert and I used to say people would purposely try to say they were into classical music to try and get points with their status, like in the 80s, and we'd say, well, can you name 40 classical composers? And if they could, we said, okay, because Paul and I could pretty easily name 40. You really listened to a lot of stuff, and a lot of great vocal music, and a lot of great songs that were really songs. So a lot of the music didn't just become extraneous noise and notes. It actually had some reason to be there. And so hopefully all that put in together into a pot and stirred for decades playing in smoky bars came out to something that was worthwhile. Hopefully.
Did you take lessons? How did you learn? You're self-taught?
Yeah, all by ear.
Wow. Do you remember your first bass and how old you were?
Yeah, it was a Hagstrom. I don't even know the model, but it had a plastic top and a vinyl back around the wood. It was a tiny little bass.
How old were you? Would you say?
I was about 13 or 14.
And who bought it for you? Your parents?
Yeah.
And did you ask for a bass?
Yeah, I wanted to play bass because the guy around the corner from me was in a band, and there was every block on in every street there was a band. As you'd walk down the street in the summertime, as one band would fade out, you start hearing another one. Everybody played. Everybody had a band. Everybody had drums set up in the living room and stuff. And there was a furniture store in Buffalo. They actually moved couches and rugs to the side so they could set up a Vox amplifier display. It was just, the world went crazy for bands and music, and that was just an amazing time. So this guy around the corner from me, Joe Hesse, he was just a great bass player, still a dear friend. And he was the bass player, and he was the cool guy. He had the coolest haircut and best-looking girlfriend, drove a Triumph motorcycle, and he had it down. And so I wanted to be like Joe, and so I just, I remember I got my first bass. Joe, you can check it out, And he was just, he's just still a dear friend of mine, a great bass player still to this day, and so just to be like my neighborhood hero.
So you're just listening to records, and you just kind of figured it out.
Exactly. Yeah,
that's amazing, man.
But I encourage other people to do that. A lot of people take the easy way now, where they get somebody to show them or watch it on YouTube and figure it out. But if you're figuring it out, it's a little harder. But you develop an ear where you can now, whenever you hear music, you know what's kind of going on. So it works out great when you're jamming with somebody, because you hear somebody playing something, you don't know what it is, but your ear picks it up and you know kind of what to do. So jams turn into more musical things rather than just the bass player holds an E note while the guitar player solos. That's not really a jam in my humble opinion. So learning by ear is just a great, great way to get it. I never took any formal music education at all. I wish I did. I'm fortunate to have some great friends that are brilliant at that. So I can always call Steve Vai, Tony McAlpine, or Jeff Berlin, or one of those guys if I have a question. What chord is this? Mm-hmm. It's an 11th augmented. Okay, whatever.
You were nice enough to give me one of your bass guitars.
How you doing on it?
A year ago. Well, I hate to tell you, pal, but it's still in the case. I look at it every once in a while, but with my schedule, I just haven't had a chance. But you've inspired me, though, because you've said that. Well, watching you play will inspire anybody, but to know that you're self-taught and that you just did that from just noodling around and figuring it out is. I mean, I don't know if I have that discipline at this point in my life, but that's amazing to me.
Well, thanks. It does take a passion, and I love to play. Yeah. People come knock on my apartment door when I lived back in Buffalo, and I'd open the door with the bass on. They go, "Don't you ever put that thing down?" I go, "No. Matter of fact, I don't. I'm always on it. In the hotel room today for about 2 hours working out on it. It's such a joy, and I'm so glad that it's a joy to me. I don't know where that came from or whether it was built into me or what happened, but I just still love to play. And bass is the easiest thing to start on. Guitar, you got to do chords, and there are multiple fingers, and all these extra notes and stuff. It's a little more complicated. You got to remember shapes and this. Where bass, you basically only have to hold one note per chord, and it's real easy. The bass on AC/DC Back in Black, I could probably get almost anybody to play that pretty quickly. However, the bass on AC/DC Back in Black is awesome. It is driven that record to sell, I don't know how, 20 million copies.
More, yeah.
And I don't mean to talk it down in any way.
Right.
It's so awesome, but it just shows that a simple bass part can be amazing in an iconic record like that. It's not a difficult thing for somebody to be able to get an entrance point and play something like that on that record. And I played along with records a lot when I was a kid, so things like that are good.
Do you play